Hello, everyone, and welcome to Geek Spiel on air. As Gil makes the best face that we know and love, which is his normal one. Um, my name is Chris, aka Tiny Rhino, and I'm bringing you all a fun discussion we have today. We originally had 4X games on the agenda, and then all of us kind of sat down and were like, okay, so how many 4X games have you played? And all of us had a pretty small number. And so we didn't feel like we could provide the most accurate, expert conversation for you. So we decided to flip it up a little bit. We're going to talk about everything that is game night prep, game night execution. What does it look like? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? A couple of things before we start. This is a PG-13 stream. We want to encourage you all to join in on the chat and have a conversation with us. Make sure to throw out your best snack food that you bring to every game night and your favorite game to play at the tables. But also make sure we're doing it in a respectful and caring way. We also want to make sure that the Discord link is below, and so feel free to hop on Discord and join us. We've been talking about some new things that we want to start implementing, and so we're really excited about some of those things coming down the pipe here in the next month or two. And so make sure you join us in Discord, get in on those discussions. If you want to just play a pickup game in the middle of the night or day, depending on where you're at, we're a great place to do that. I'm going to kick it over to a couple of our regulars because we don't have any guests tonight. It's just the boring three guys that you're used to. Matt, say hello to our wonderful, wonderful community tonight.
Well, hello, everybody, and I'll echo what Chris said, is join the Discord because there's always games being played and always looking for something to get into there. So I will say that the 4X games are a little heavy to play on Tabletop Simulator. Just because of the time investment that it takes to play those kind of games. But come on in if you like the heavier stuff, because we want to try and do some of that kind of crunchy stuff too.
Yeah, for sure. We've been starting to, I think, increase our level of depth with some of the games. I mean, especially when we play Table Crashers, usually our stuff's a little light. It's super quick. It's something we can fit into 2 hours with an interview and a rules discussion, right? We do try to do our crunchy cardboard, and some of the games have still been pretty light, but we're starting to get into some little heavier stuff here and there. And I agree sentiment, not that we're on 4X games, but I guess the side combo of, not just in Tabletop Simulator, but in real life, I feel like that's one of the barriers for me for 4X games is I've got to convince a bunch of people to dedicate, 5+ hours to a game that's probably pretty rule heavy and crunchy in of itself. So.
I'm going to go back to that, but after you say hello to Gil, because we ought to hear from my buddy.
Well, I'm also going to ask everyone to start off with the game that hasn't been on their table lately that they want to get onto the table. So, Matt, think about your question. I'll pop over to Gil, and I'll let Gil give his response as well, and then we'll pop back over to you. So, Gil, say hello.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? Gonna see I sound a little weird tonight. Well, I always sound weird, but weirder. Is that an English word? Weirder.
Weirdest? Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. My allergies are just. I'm between Zortec and all the other things I'm taking. I feel like I'm on 9 clouds. Everything is moving very slow.
A lot of times you have to pay a lot of money for that kind of feeling. So
I know. I knew
yeah.
it was
the fact that a head cold can get you there. Yeah.
Go outside and breathe it in the lions, and you'd be good.
Right. I just want you to know I'm going to mess with you all night. Just randomly throw stuff out there. Like, Gil, remember earlier when you said this?
And
you're not going to remember.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gil, what's your game that hasn't been on the table that you want to get on the table?
It's a game. That's beautiful game. I don't know if gonna put my face here. It's beautiful. Not as beautiful as me, but anyway, it's called Halloween from Quinnet Games. Quinnet Games is one of those companies that they're the component qualities in the games, and this box is actually like a book cover, and slides out, but slides out a little different than another box. And so it's a Halloween themed game. Which is actually, I read the rules and I'm so excited to play this. It's a game from Angelo De Maio. It's just an art. I'm trying to remember who did the art for it. I think it's I can't pronounce the guy's name. Is Constantine something. But yeah, I'm really excited to do that. Although it's a Halloween theme, is a game that you can actually play anytime. It's not for Halloween. It's just beautiful. And that's the one I've been trying to get to the table. But we have a rule in my group: don't put a game on the table if you can teach. Because we were in PAX this last year, and I tried to teach a game that I read the rule in the morning, which is normally not a problem unless you're trying to teach Lisboa during a convention.
Yeah.
So I try not to take on games that big that, I need to get a practice play. Yeah,
Right.
so that's my game that I want to get to the table. Funny enough, the other game I want to put on the table is one that's called, it's a Christmas themed game.
Wow, all the holidays for Gil.
Yeah.
Which is a really good game too. So those are the two games that I'm looking forward to play.
Gil, is that Halloween
Santa
game?
Shop.
Is that Santa Shop? Is that
No, the
Halloween
other
game?
one.
Is that Halloween game like a year or two old, or is that brand new?
I
think I heard
he had it on Origins, and it
Okay.
came out. I want to say it's not quite a year old. I would say maybe it's half a year old.
I think I heard.
I just had.
I think I heard Isaac Shalev on Board Games interview the designer of that game or the creator of that game, but it's been like more than a year ago. That's why I was wondering. So it might have been that game. Or it might have been something else.
Yeah, I think Origins is when he brought it to show the first time. He only had the box. He didn't have the boxes here in the US. So Origins will be this coming month. So yeah, it's close to a year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I love those. I mean, I have boxes that I've kind of accidentally someone gets a hold of and splits a corner of, because sometimes those old style boxes are hard, especially if it's a tight fit. But I love that, like, just kind of slide out book cover. I don't know if it's something different. I think that's what it is more than anything. It's something different.
So the game was launched in October. It was a Kickstarter, and then came in retail about a month later, so about November.
Okay. Matt, do you want to flip it back to what your game is and your comment you wanted to make about 4X?
Oh, well, I will start with my game. My game is Imperial Assault. It's one that just really seems like the kind of thing I like. It's Star Wars themed. It's co-op. It's dungeon crawler kind of esque. And there's everything I read. There seems to be great story to it. It stayed on my shelf forever because it's an Overlord game. You need someone to play the Empire. So if you get 4 people to the table, you got to have one person willing to do that. And with my son, or the age group of the people who are willing to play that, so they came out with that app here about 4 months ago. And that one is, I'm anxious to get it on the table because now we can play against the Steam game, or the whatever is ready.
Right.
So I am a completionist, so I'm a little bit nervous that it'll cost me $1,000, because once I start playing it, I'll have to have all the expansions and all the measures and stuff. So, but that's the one I'm excited about. So the comment that I had about these 4X games really is going to feather perfectly into tonight's conversation, and that is, game night preparation. And the reason that we don't play a lot of 4X games is that we're gaming with people who aren't heavy gamers. And if you get a 4X game out, you get Eclipse and put it on the table, and everyone at the table isn't into that, then you could go 4 hours where 2 people are just completely miserable.
Right.
So
you're not even done with the game at that point.
Right.
Civilization takes 2 hours to teach. It doesn't, but it feels like it, right? It takes a good solid hour of setup, setup and rules teach for people that, if you're not into that, level of crunchiness and depth, like, you're just going to be miserable. Like you said, you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
I played Heroes of Air, Land, and Sea just recently, and luckily the guy teaching did a really good job teaching the game, and Dan, the other guy, had played already. So it was I really loved the game. I thought the idea was great. There was a couple things there that I just think was just an afterthought into the game, but other than that, I thought it was a pretty good game. I liked it, but again, I don't have I only have played a handful of 4X games, so I don't have a lot to compare. But that particular game, I really like it, and I play as a dwarf, so that already is a plus for me.
Anytime you can play as a dwarf, right, Gil?
Oh yes.
I have a D&D character. This is totally a side note. I have a D&D character I'm creating right now for an in-house campaign. That is a cleric of the smith, and he's a dwarven smith. He's an artisan, right? And he took his craft very seriously, and as most dwarves do, they pray to the gods he almost feels like he does it out of like cultural necessity more than actual choice. But he had a near-death experience at the forge, and he prayed to his god of the smiths, and the God saved him, but he lost his arm. And so now he's obsessed with tinkering and creating various prosthetics for him. And where his weapon prosthetic is essentially a ranged, a defense and a melee attack all in one arm. It's kind of an interesting mechanic, but he essentially wants to turn himself into an automaton, like a warforged creature. He's trying to convert every part of his body. So I'm going to try and start him at level 1 with this, like, prosthetic arm. And I'm also going to kind of pull out like an Inspector Gadget, where he suddenly like has, those kitchen appliances that literally have one task that you use them for. They're useless for everything else. He's going to have other prosthetics that just literally have one function that are not always useful.
Go Dwarven can opener.
See,
right, exactly.
For me, is like my first D&D character was a dwarf fighter, Buster, which I am intending to resurrect on our new campaign. So I has a special place on my heart. Yeah.
I like dwarves just because I can get the metal dice out. I have a set of metal dice.
To
thump them onto the table. So.
And they always feel good just to go.
Oh yeah, and they sound intimidating when you dumb.
Right. Right.
Yeah, you dumber. Thrice cursed.
So I have
goblin.
to get Gil's dwarving it up over here. I have 2 games. One that hasn't been on my table in a really long time, and that is Viticulture. I'm super excited to get this back on the table because, again, it's just a game that I know and love.
Worker placement, that's no surprise.
Right, it's worker placement. It's fine. And one that, because of just this resurgence of us playing this on Crunchy Cardboard and us talking about it a little bit in chat, was Machi Koro. And then the thing that we kept talking about is TTS doesn't have Bright Lights Big City. And so I bought from the local game store literally today Machi Koro Bright Lights Big City. Well, I guess it was yesterday. But anyway, so I've been...
Bad expansion for a bad game.
Right. It's literally what I've heard is how you have to play the game anymore. So, I'm excited about those 2. So,
there was a discussion on one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of that says, does Tabletop Simulator cut into, industry revenue? Is it hurt game publishers by having these games on there? Because some of them will put takedowns on tabletop content on TTS. But here's an example: is I bought Machi Koro Bright Lights Big City yesterday as well. So because of the game we played, 2 copies of that got purchased on the same day unknowingly. It's funny when you pick that up because
you guys didn't tell me.
Yeah, I bought it. I bought it as well. Just a note, Chris, you're going to want to get some Euro sleeves because I think the cards are not super quality.
Okay.
So you get to fooling around with them. Maybe you've got a different version than I do, but I opened them up and I immediately thought, I need 200 sleeves for this. So.
And again, you love a game where you have to buy 200 sleeves.
Well, and I have a drawer of sleeves. I was able to find them.
Oh, okay. You had a few.
You paid me to look behind you at your shelf and think that your idea of fun is playing Machi Koro.
Well, that's the thing is I want to play games that I can teach that are easy. Here we go. We're back into our discussion for the night. People come to game night, and if I go to a game night and there's five or 7 players or 5 or 6 people, you don't want to throw something on the table. You're only there for 4 or 5 hours. Do you want to throw something on the table that's going to take all of that? Maybe in the right group. Maybe some groups like the folks you game with.
Here's an idea. I will give you a full set of Machi Koro with all sleeved cards and all the expansion in exchange for your Discworld.
Well, I already bought Machikoro though. You want the Discworld though, huh?
Nobody likes Discworld. I think, but I'm such a fan of Terry Pratchett. I need that game just because I gotta have it.
Man, I think I need to up the price on it then. I think
right. I'll take not only Machikoro but
Anachrony. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I don't like that much. I just want to have it.
One of your Kickstarter exclusives that it is costing you like 100 plus. So
best money I ever invested.
So we've been flirting with the idea of this conversation. Maybe we should get into it. We're talking about game nights. And I again, feel free, throw some things out in chat. Chat's been pretty quiet so far, which is strange. At least I don't have any comments from chat. Here, let me post a thing in chat. Hello. Perfect. I've contributed to chat. Maybe. I don't know. It's not even showing up right now.
No, I say it. Nobody wants to talk to you, though. I think they're intimidated by the beard.
Well, it's not showing up on my chat, which is weird. Here, I'll refresh this. Yeah. But we're going to talk about game night stuff tonight. So I think the first conversation I want to start with, and Matt, you kind of alluded to, is what is the structure of your game nights? What do they look like? You know, do you pick something that's a couple of hours with a bunch of random friends who don't typically play board games? Do you do your game nights with, you know, your typical crew? I would say I have two types of game nights. I have the one that's with my friends that don't play board games. And when they do, it's typically like a solid party game that makes us all laugh. And then I have my other crew that's like, we play Battlestar Galactica for, 17 playthroughs straight. And, we have even some of those crunchier games known to like a science that even something that could take you 2.5 hours to play maybe takes you an hour and a half because you're used to getting through that stuff. And, Civ, the first time I played Civ was definitely, with that like crunchier group. None of us had played it before, but we definitely all sat there and said, hey, let's, really dive into it. And I think some of the main differences from those two groups for me is my like casual game night group is typically like a group of folks that is super chill. It's my friends that don't play a lot of board games. And typically it's only when, like, if we're playing a game, it's either something we've played like a super party game we've played 100 times, or it's one game we play maybe for an hour and we're done. My other game night group, I mean, we're sitting up at like, 10 o'clock in the morning. We're going at least until 6 o'clock at night, if not later. We all have kids now, so we plan around like, can't be a Sunday because it's school night, all these other things. But that's my group that I mean, like, we'll sit there for almost an entire full day to just, get in a couple of smalls, maybe one game that's super crunchy. We play a variety, all of those things. So I'm going to pass it off. We'll start with Gil, actually, because I like him better than Matt. Gil, can you tell me?
I do too.
Gil, tell me what does your game night structure look like? Like, what does your group or groups kind of play into?
For the record, I like myself better than Matt's too.
It's unanimous.
The first thing I think we've ever done that is you.
I know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, as you said, how you prepare your game night is very dependent on who you're playing with, I guess. I think I mostly play games with, I hate the term heavy board gamers, but people who plays board games more often, I should say. Yeah, that's my bread and butter. But I do play a lot with my daughter. I do play a lot of my friend Jesse as we travel because we are on the road a lot. So I'm doing this little series where I teach him a game every week. And either he's going to stop traveling with me or he's going to become a board gamer. But I think it's very related to who you play with. And I do go all out. For me, it's a special night, and sometimes I play 2-3 times a week, and sometimes I play once a week. And once in a while I play none, which is kind of sad. I'm the opinion that the worst worst board game night is better than the best day of work. So, it's and I normally go to one of the two places, either to the beer mongers or the pizza, Hurricane Pizza. They do like alternate weeks, and then we always go to each other's house. We have a group, like I live a little far, so I'm normally the one driving to people's houses, which is kind of annoying. Most people, when they come here, we're playing Gloomhaven, but I just enjoy play games. I make fun of Machiko and stuff like that, but I would play. It has to be a really bad game if I decide I don't want to play that
So
game.
what I hear from you is Machiko that bad.
No, it is that bad, but I'd rather play that than sit around moping. There's one game I won't play, Planet of the Apes, the worst game I ever bought. It beats Machikoro by far.
Okay.
But I normally we play in restaurants and beer bars, the two groups I meet, so there's always food and drinks around, so you don't have to provide much in those things. But when we do play in each other's house, which is getting to be more often enough, and I don't think we have a lot of restrictions on what we eat and stuff like that.
Right.
But the game is directly, we all like to play new games all the time, but it's important to have the right games for the right groups.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say, like, I wish we had more. My gaming groups had more not at someone's house nights. Like almost all of our events are at someone's house. And again, it's kind of the dynamic we're at, right? Like we all, again, at this point, many of my friends all have kids. And so we're at a point where, if we can't get away, half the time one of us is watching, their kids. And so it helps to have it at the house. But gosh, if we get a chance where we can go to a bar and just, be by just ourselves and kind of get away for a little bit, I mean, that's preferred. It just never happens. So it does feel like kind of that setup of convenience somewhat for us.
Yeah, for me, I'm fortunate that I have a dedicated game room, in my basement. So my wife's gone to bed, we don't bother her, and then things like that. And when we play at Dan's house, he has no kids, so his wife many times work late shift. So I'm very fortunate on the places where I've been playing board games, so I can't complain about that.
Matt, what do you got for us on game night structure? What does that look like?
I think you definitely have to go into it with the understanding that it takes planning. If it's a game night that I'm having here at the house, you have to think, who's coming, who's invited, what are you going to eat? Gil said, you go to a restaurant, you're not really worried about food because food's taken care of, but you wouldn't want to put Gloomhaven on the table while 3 people order ribs. Right.
Well, you wouldn't take a Gloomhaven to
right, but you just well, I don't know. You still have to consider it, right? You still have to consider it. I'm the guy who sleeves games, so so I don't want people having Cheetos and ribs at my house, but you got to realize you want people to come over and have a good time, and the people who I invite mostly would have the respect, and they're going to be careful about that kind of stuff, or they recognize that I've got a sleeved game and they're not going to do too bad of things to them. But that part aside, that part of anal retentiveness aside, you have to have a plan. And I don't want to even talk about food just yet, because that's a whole other thing that we touched on there. But it's about what games you're going to play, and who's going to be at the table, and are they going to have fun playing this, and what the mood is. If we're sitting around, and we have another couple that comes down from Pennsylvania and visits with us a lot, and they like to play Settlers of Catan because she is an avid gamer and he is a musician and is not really into board games. He'll play because he's a good sport, but he's not really into it. Right. So we'll play Settlers. We'll play something that is easy to pick up on, and it's a socialized game because he wants to play, but he isn't going to be competitive. So you kind of have to take those factors into it. Who's at the table? You want everyone to have a good time, right? If you have 2 people that don't like the game and you put Gloomhaven on the table, or you put Kingdom Death Monster on the table, and 6 hours later, they're never coming back to your house, or you haven't done justice to them. So I think you have to have a plan.
Okay. Just know at PAX, I'm bringing as many ribs and Cheetos as possible.
And I will not be bringing any of my games, so you're fine.
I don't know if y'all know this. Matt and I have a really a love but pretend to hate relationship.
Yeah, all of us do.
And if I can make him miserable for even just like a preemptive miserable, I'm okay doing that. So
you got to get out in front of that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with the planning part, and again I think part of it for me is we have this is a tabletop RPG. This is our D&D. We have a weekly D&D, and that's pretty easy to do, right? Like that's planned and set. We have a routine. It feels like something like that actually is more conducive, in my opinion, to kind of these last minute or like fairly frequent events, because as long as I'm not DMing, right? It's not a lot of plan, to even, chuck some dice. Okay, cool. I bring a bag and I bring my notebook and I bring a couple of extra books because I'm a nerd and I have to look everything up. But, when I'm sitting there, half the time it's just me having a conversation around a table with a bunch of people. But when it's the board game nights, right, when it's not just like I'm role playing or RPing in an adventure, it feels like it needs to be something that's planned. And I don't know if that's because, one of my game groups, is that, crunchier, we're the ones that do play the Civ, play, the Battlestar Galactica, pulling out these games that take at least 2 hours to play. It feels like when it's not prepared and we're not ready to do it, something falls through, right? Like it's, someone doesn't show up because we, didn't give them enough notice, or, instead of having that fifth player we really need, we're down to 4. And so like, it's kind of the again, if you have a defector game, like, you almost feel like you need 4 or 5 players, and that's hard to do if you don't have enough. And, again, someone's got to bring it, the kids. And again, we all love kids. We all have them. But in the same respect, it becomes harder to play Battlestar Galactica when you're got your kid who's like running around and you gotta take care of it. Like we were playing a game, the last game night we played, I had Oliver with me, and he's 6.5 months now, but at that time he was like 3 months. And when he takes big poop and I have to feed him, and so at this point I'm changing a diaper, I'm feeding a kid that's bottle fed, and
and Cylon.
I was not a Cylon. But like, burping him and then also trying to hold cards and all of these things. And then of course he's mad. And the only way to make my kid go to sleep is to rock him in a car seat that's 20 pounds. And, it feels extra. It feels so much more. And so if I can plan that out, right? Like I pick a time, a month ahead of time where we can say, okay, this is our weekend. I've made accommodations for Crystal, my wife, to watch the kid. I know that I don't have anything going on around it. I think it just makes for us anyways, for our gaming group, the experience just a little more enjoyable. And almost like the pressure is taken off the experience a little bit, and we can just focus on gaming for a while.
Yeah. Well, and you got to go into that with some flexibility too. Boy, I really want to play Battlestar with the Pegasus. I really want to play this. I really want to play it. And when you get there are 2 people that have had a just crappy day at the office or whatever, and they're not in the mood for that. You got to be you don't want to force that game you wanted on the table, right? You want to take a read of what's going on in the room and go with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's bounce it over to, so I'm asking folks, what is one of your favorite games to get on the table at a game night? So that question's in chat. If you're joining us in Twitch chat, feel free to throw your response down. Digital Carnage is over here saying things like Mr. Game, Cards Against Humanity, Monopoly, and then some other random games. Gil, what's a game that you love seeing on the table? I know that you're kind of so your gaming groups are someone that likes to put something new on the table when you can, but is there something that maybe has a repeat a couple of times, or you see it?
No, all the games have a repeat. You sound like I never play older games, which sometimes feel like that, to tell the truth. It's like because there's so many gamers, eventually everybody has a game, right, that they want to play, and that can become a problem too. Sometimes you just want to play something, and now learning, having to learn something every damn week. You want to learn a new game and things like that. And it does feel like that sometimes. We cannot be. Sometimes I don't think it's very productive. It's not a complaint, but it is at the same time. But we played Kemet the other day, which I loved. I love to play Rajas of the Ganges, or in English, Rajas of the Ganges. It's a game that I played quite a few times. I'm really into London. It's a simple game. It's a new version of an older game that just came out recently. So those are games that I'll play. Anachrony, I'll play Anachrony anytime, anywhere people like it. Yes, those are some of the games. There's so many games. Gloomhaven has been a repeat because of campaign mode, so we're just going through the game. So that becomes trying to look at my shelf and trying to think. There's always a game. And then there's games that my daughter loves, and we play it at home quite often. I like little games. It sounds like I like big games, but because I travel a lot, little games are important for my gaming life. Ryan Lockett has a couple nice games like the 8 Minutes Empires, and Artcrafts Inc. I bought a little game called Robot Rise from Kickstarter, and some card game versions of big games like No Siesta, which is the card game, which is not card game, it's a roll and write, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with roll and write games, is games that you roll dice and you have a pad instead of having a board and stuff like that. So those are the games like what's that? Castle of Burgundy. So I do a lot of little games. I love games that play in 30 minutes to an hour.
As long as it's not Machikoro, huh? You just described Machikoro.
Okay, let me
right. He literally described Machikoro as
I never thought you could get overdone with a game.
Well, then that's it.
I've played a lot of games. It's just the problem is, for a long time, that's all my daughter wants to play. Machikoro. Yeah. It's just, I don't think it's that big of a game. I think it's a game to play with my kids and maybe my wife. I had fun the other night though playing it. I think too, it's just, I'll play Machikoro. I don't hate it.
You won the other night.
I was going to say, he liked it because he won. Let's be completely honest.
No.
He at a game, right? He beat Frank at a game. That's what he liked.
It's just like, I just think that there's, for the same cost benefits, there's so much better games out there that I would rather play. Yeah. I'm not saying I will never play. There are games like the Planets of the Apes. I will say I will never play this game.
Right.
I'd rather go sit down and drink water. Brewed water. But Machikoro, I'll play. I was like, okay, that's why I'll play. It's not that I'm not gonna play. I just rather play something else. That's all.
Okay, Matt, what you got?
Well, something that Gil made me think of that is also kind of key for game night, and I think it is, if you're going to play something new or if you're going to play something, it's important that someone at the table has played it before and can teach it. Because if you, we've done a couple of times, and I'm not going to pick on Gil for Lisboa, but if you want to ruin game night, spend 45 minutes reading through. Okay, now everybody gets 7 cards. Okay, now everybody gets to, that isn't fun for a lot of people. And so you need someone. They don't have to be the most dynamic and interesting person. They don't have to have charisma, a plus 10 charisma. They just need to be versed in the game enough that can teach it. And I will add to that, they need to be able to teach it to the level of the people at the table. If we're playing a simple game that I haven't played before, but it's exactly like 5 other things that we have played, I do not need you to give me all the strategies and all the everything. Don't pour it on to the point where I'm hating the game before I ever get it going, because and everybody's different. My wife, she does not want to hear rules at all. She wants to play a practice game or a practice round.
Oh yeah, I have people like that too. And it's again, for someone who is a like myself, that just drives me bonkers. But I get it.
Yeah. And if you're going to do, if you're making a special night, hey, we're going to meet together tonight, we're going to play Gloomhaven and we're going to start the campaign. If that's the reason that you're meeting and it's all decided up front, then everybody ought to come having watched, Rodney Smith's video on it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's what we've been doing when we do Crunchy Cardboard lately. Has been, someone throws at a game. Here's a Rodney Smith, or here's a Dice Tower how to, that
Paul
Dice
Grohan. Paul Grohan.
Oh yeah.
From Games Rule. Amazing. Yeah.
I would say that we've had two experiences. Sorry, I was coughing. We've had two experiences where we've with my Crunchy game board game group where we've just picked up a game that all of us were like, yeah, we want to play that so bad. Actually, 3 times, and none of us knew how to play it. And the first one was Battlestar Galactica, and it's because all of us are big nerds, and we were like, this is gonna be fun. And then the second one was Civ, and the third one was Game of Thrones, the board game. I would say 2 of the 3 of those went well. Like we did 2. It was the first and the last. It was Game of Thrones and Battlestar Galactica. That went really well. Yes, that first night was something that took us, 45 minutes to read through the rules. I think for Game of Thrones, we threw out a video ahead of time because it is a big game with a lot of rules. But we made that mistake with Civ that like someone was super excited about it and all of us loved the computer game, right? And so we were all like, oh yeah, let's play Civ. Let's play Civ. We're gonna play Civ. And we watched, I think, 2 different videos, one on setup, one on playthrough. Ended up being almost 2 hours before, we got the game set up and the rules, quote unquote, learned. And then we were constantly referring back to the rule book. And so I think it can be done where you pick up a game with a group, as long as they're patient and willing to kind of deal with folks who, again, have those different learning styles who, some folks like to go through the rules, some folks like a play test round, but it can also, like you said, backfire tremendously when you're just sitting there and you just want to play a game and you're still trying to get through a rule book with 75 pages and just the tiniest text you've ever seen in a rule
That's
book.
a bit of a problem we're having because there's so much media available right now. People have to remember it's fine to learn a game after a video. You gotta read the rules from the game you bought at least once. You gotta try to learn from the rules from the game. Because many times the video don't explain everything. There's little detail. There will come up questions,
Right.
Yeah.
Even when you read the rules and you went through those questions, you might not remember right away. You're going to have to go back to look at that. So you got to read the rules at least one time.
But I'm a visual learner. I'll watch that video, then read the rules.
There's nothing wrong, but you did read you would at least skim through the rules once.
Right. You've done
both.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Like if you just don't do that, can become very difficult, But there are situations that you can all agree upon. There's this beast that we're going to take over,
right?
And we're going to try to learn together, and that's different. It's agreed upon, but I think those have to be. Those are things that shouldn't happen all the time. That's destroyed a game night.
Well, they're draining.
Fairly easy.
Yeah,
they're draining. I like my game night setups to have one big game that maybe takes us an hour and a half, 2 hours to play, and a couple of small. So with my Crunchy board game group, we'll either do a Game of Thrones or a Battlestar Galactica, and then we'll throw something like Sheriff of Nottingham or Seven Wonders, not Civ. Gosh, now I'm stuck on Civ.
Here's our cold opener.
Right.
Yeah.
Citadels. We'll play something super easy, super fast, something super chill to play. My other game group, we'll play just one game at a time. So it's, but we'll play 17 rounds of it. So it's like Werewolf is a big one with them, where we'll sit there and we'll play Werewolf for 3 straight hours. I'm almost always the narrator, and it's obnoxious for a little while, but it's one of those that I don't like to sit and play. I'm like Gil. I don't like to sit and play one game for the entire night, unless it's planned, right? Unless it's something that I know I'm going to get into. I want to have a couple of small games, and I like them. They're fun. They're easy. You feel like you got a lot accomplished when you played a couple of small game in a boxes. It's super easy to play something that's got a deck of cards and it's a trick taking game or a set collecting game. It's super quick and easy, so I would definitely say that I like a game setup that's got both one big game that's fairly manageable to play, a couple of small thrown in there too.
Keeping you up.
Gosh, sorry, I'm so tired.
Does Chris need a nappy poo?
I need a nap. My kid decided to be up early, and I also went out last night for a birthday, so I'm like recovering.
Okay.
I'm gonna show my age here. I'm 29.
Yeah.
I know. I look so young.
I was gonna say, talk to me in 15 more.
But I just don't party like I used to. So last night it was sober chauffeur / just drinking just a little bit. We had graduations for some students, and so
my bad. You said sober chauffeur, then drinking just a little bit. When you got home, you had to.
Well, so I drank it. We started drinking at like 3. So I drank for a couple hours and then stopped and then sobered the night and then came home. So,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
There's some sketchy subject there. I don't know.
Right. No drinking and driving.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to the beginning and can you lay this? I need you to lay this timeline out in a pencil for me here.
Yeah. Here, let me show you a schedule.
Yeah, I'm trying to like red string on the board and connecting.
Right. So speaking of drinking, because I think all three of us love doing it. What is the atmosphere at your game night look like? Is it something that's, we're ordering pizza and we're having fun, we're drinking beers, is it someone that all they're doing is playing games? And so, if someone's got a couple of beers in and then we want to kick them out of the house, like, what does that look like for you all when you're talking about atmosphere? And, do you take breaks, especially if you got something that's like, a 5, 6, 7 hour stretch of gaming, like what does that setup look like? I'll let either of you take it.
I definitely, if I'm going to do an all-day gaming thing like this, like a Twilight Imperium, something, you got to pace yourself. You got to, but that's, everybody's going to do it differently. Twilight Imperium, there's a lot of downtime, and if you're sitting there waiting for the other 4 people to take their turn, oh man, that 6-pack is gone. What happened there? Well, it's and Gil and I like to drink the IPAs and stuff that are 7 or 8%, right? So you got to be careful about getting yourself into trouble with that and ruining it. And if you've got people in your group that don't handle that kind of stuff really well, but I don't know, the game nights here in the last couple of years, John's place, he's part of the Geek Spiel group here too. He puts on a great spread. There's always some meat and cheese and some rum and Coke and whatever you want to mix and some beer in the fridge and that kind of stuff. And I've never seen anybody at the table, get out of hand with that. You sip on the rum and Coke and it makes you laugh a little harder and makes you,
right,
relax a little bit more. And that's part of the enjoyment of game night. So, you gotta, you do, if it's my house, you do have to kind of watch, who's planning on staying in the guest room and who's planning on going home. I mean, I'm old enough to feel responsible for those people that are coming to my house.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for a person that's already loud and boisterous and just eats a ton, like there's no difference between drunk Chris and regular Chris. Yeah. But I would say, and we're seeing this in chat, other than Digital Carnage saying no breaks allowed, must play all games all the time. We're seeing this like, yeah, take a break. I mean, if you're playing a long day, take a break, if lunch or dinner if needed. Alcohol is fine as long as folks want to. And, I have a gaming group where based on like beliefs, like we don't bring alcohol to the event, and that's fine too. I mean, I think it's that similar time and place, who's your group and who's all there and how do we have a good time with everyone. And so I think that's my biggest thing is what's your group and what are they looking for? We typically do kind of like a BYOB with a potluck plus kind of thing, so again, someone's bringing chips, someone's bringing a meat and cheese kind of setup, someone's bringing some cookies that they picked up from Hy-Vee, aka myself, stuff like that. But then, everyone's got either a soda or water or a beer or chocolate milk because the kid's drinking it, and I go, what, I want a glass of that. So it's kind of whatever. I think it's kind of a casual thing, but there's always something. I don't think I think the game plan for us is we never want to be burnout till we don't enjoy the day. And so I feel sometimes when you just go so hard in the paint with either the board game or the party part of it, you just start losing what the day is meant for, which is that kind of casual socialization. It's spending some time with people you care about and doing something fun. So that's what it means for us. And so we'll keep an environment that supports that for sure.
Yeah, for me, well, it depends if it's on a house or like the two places we go, they're both beer bars. So there's alcohol there, and there's I think I only went through one situation one time that the same guy twice in 2 different weeks ordered chicken wings, this elaborate stuff during my game, and I have to say, I don't mind, you just eat it and we'll wait. He says, no, it's fine, and no, it's not.
Right. Please don't touch my game with
let's pull one
wavy
of your
fingers
games now, and I'm not picking of my games. That's the thing, like, it takes a lot for me to really say something about my games. I'm not that overly care of my games, but we have an underspoken rule, like you're welcome to drink, but if you tip a beer glass, you're buying the guy who owns the game a new copy of that game, and you just got a beer copy for yourself,
Yeah.
But then we've been playing more in our houses now, so the group is kind of we know each other. I play with a bunch of jerks, and we have this understanding. And I normally in my house I provide water, soda, and beer. And if you want something else, have to bring yourself. But and we 90% of the time order pizza because it's the cheapo thing to do. We are all cheapos, and we spend all our money in cardboard
too.
Well, and you spend all your money on games and beer, so
but we do vary too. It depends how long, like it depends which games we're playing, and we do a lot of long days, like a whole full day game. So we'll have coffee and we'll stop, we'll walk around, and if you play X-Wings, that can easily eat 4 or 5 hours if you play 2-3 games on a night. So it doesn't feel like that much. That's the worst part. Like you play like 3 games of X-Wing, you realize, oh, it's freaking 1 o'clock in the morning. My wife is going to kill me.
Where did this time go?
Everybody sneak out quietly.
And no, it's the other way. When I'm in somebody's house, my wife's going to kill me because I didn't tell her I'm arriving at 2 in the morning. No, but it's so it's very, I think I'm very fortunate. It's hard for me to talk. I know people talk about horror stories. I have not gone through one of those. And then like Matt and I are going to be together at Origins this year. And we normally go to the hall. By 5 o'clock, we quit the hall and go back to the hotel. And then we play until, our eyes can be open.
Until the hall opens up the next day.
You don't sleep.
It's so we're about playing games. That's the most important thing. And then you kind of weed out it when it's a game night group, like when you host something that it's open to the public. I think it's very difficult because you have to have a couple people that has to be in charge of it ish,
right?
So they can weed out. But on your house or in your friends, you just don't invite those people a couple of times. They will kind of get a hint.
Yeah.
So you're not inviting me anymore. Yeah, I don't know. And also, and I don't limit myself by numbers. I have no problem with splitting the part. I know Chris said you like to all play together. If there's 7 of us, we're doing a table of 4 and a table of 3. We're playing games or close by, so nobody has a problem of that, unless it's more like a casual gamers, people that don't play game all the time.
Right.
Then we'll try to keep together because I love social deduction games and party games, but I know that a lot of the people that I play with are not very fond of it, so it's hard for me to get the right group to play that kind of game.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I would say that the not splitting up the group is more of a group dynamic piece than a me piece, but in the same respect, I don't always, it feels sometimes like game nights are hard for me because, again, the crew that I play with, and we've got some folks mentioning about, you all talked about Origins, but when we got all of us together at PAX, right? Like we can't find a game that multiple games that like 10 people can play right in a row. We all have different interests too. So I think, setting that up and mixing it up will be different. But with my typical gaming group, I've got a group of folks, it's always typically going to cap at 6 tops. And so, most of your games can accommodate that, for the most part. Right. And so, it can be hard sometimes. I think most of the time keeping us all together is a group dynamic piece. Like there's some necessity to it.
See, I find so difficult to find good games that play 6 people comfortably. It's a rare commodity.
Yeah, if it's not a social deduction game, then it isn't going to scale well. If it's a game where there's an expansion, yeah. So they're getting like Citadels or something like that will scale nicely.
Right.
But I don't have a problem splitting the party either, splitting the tables either, because if you've got 7 or 8 people in one house that are there to play games, you're going to have differing. Not everybody's going to want to play the same game. You're going to have people who like different games, and it might take a little while for those 8 people or for that group to gel and figure out what each other likes. It's going to be a popularity contest too. Everybody wants to play with me, because I'm popular and I'm great.
I don't ever want to play games with you.
So, this kind of makes a nice. I know we're running out of time here tonight, but I wanted to touch base on this, and that is, we're all here tonight because of a group online that we have together. So we're talking about in-person game nights, but there's also, we get together and play games 2-3 times a week. There's also online gaming, and with Tabletop Simulator, board gaming online is a legitimate, a fun thing to do. So, what do you guys think about, that you don't have to worry about anybody spilling, pizza, wing sauce, and beer on your table? What do you guys think about that? Do you guys?
I go back and forth. I think with my schedule and where I'm at in life, it is really difficult to plan an in-person game night, every week or every other week for me anyway. And I love the tabletop piece, TTS and what we're doing here, right? I'm super committed. And that's because it allows me that opportunity to not only learn new games, right? Because we have the beauty that is the internet, and especially with TTS, like there are workshops out there and games we can purchase. Tabletopia, while we didn't necessarily like playing the system too much, it had options for us to play. And so I don't feel like, if someone doesn't have a game, we're not limited to the fact that, I'm looking over Matt's shoulder, let's say no one has Takedo, and that's a game we really want to play. Well, with TTS, it's super easy to pull that up on a workshop and, do that. But I will say that there's a special place in my heart to getting everyone together and playing a game and having those physical components. I mean, we talked earlier about, when you're that dwarf character and you have that heavy metal dice and you get to throw it on the table, as much as I love D20 and all of these, systems, there's nothing compared to having a set of dice and just chucking it. Pressing R on my keyboard 17 times to roll the dice only does so much for me. So I go back and forth. I think it's a piece of convenience to be online. I think it has definitely introduced me to new people, has let me play a lot of new games. Again, we were just talking about I think the beauty of the online system is I would challenge, companies that say, putting your game online is going to prevent you from making money off of it, because this hobby, I think, all goes back to the physical components and the game and the being at a table. And so, yes, I might play Machi Koro, a couple of times online, but I literally just went and dropped, some cash on picking it up myself, and now I have it and I can show it to new people. And I'm going to bring this to my game night groups, and I'm going to say, hey, you want a quick game to play? Let's try Machi Koro. And again, I've had an opportunity to play it. I can teach the rules. I feel confident in answering questions. Like, those are all pieces that we talked about are integral to those in-person game nights. The online atmosphere and the online system has allowed me to do that. And so I think both have their pluses and minuses. I love, again, don't get me wrong, I love sitting up and playing online and being able to chat, but I also love that in-person component too. So
I think the flexibility that comes from it is fantastic. I like I said, the communities that we're part of, or really just Twitter or anything else, any other kind of communities out there. And that is, I still want to do my in-person game nights. I still want to do that kind of stuff. But having 2 kids and a career and all those other kind of things, it's 9 o'clock and everybody's in bed. And man, I wouldn't be playing something. Because of those tools, you don't have to get in your car and tell your wife that you'll be back in a few hours and go to the game shop and hope there's somebody sitting down there that's taking a shower
that wants to play your game and all.
Right. So you go someplace online and you find it, and if you don't mind non-socializing, you can go to Tabletop Simulator and just build a table and wait for people to join.
Right.
You know? So that kind of I kind of like that. I kind of like how it lets me have social engagements and play these games without having to worry about what to cook, what to clean. You know, did I clean up the living room? Did I wash the bathroom?
Yeah. Did I clean up my house beforehand?
Yeah.
Clean it up afterwards. Yeah. Like, you know, again, it's easy for me to put Oliver next to me, mute my mic, and listen to people chat. Yeah. And then when I've got him to sleep, I can unmute my mic and talk at a whisper. I mean, how many times have we done that, right? Like my wife works nights, and I'm, you know, sometimes, and I'm sitting here and I've got the kid, and putting him in a car seat, taking him across town, you know, getting him out, bringing milk and all the stuff. Like, it's easy to just sit there and go, oh, I put him in his rocking chair next to me. I'm rocking him with my foot, and I'm playing TTS on the other screen.
It's one of my favorite moments of, like, here 2 weeks ago. I mean, Chris and I have played a lot of games together and done a lot of broadcasts together, and he and I are equally bombastic and loud. And we sit down to Monte Carlo or whatever the game it was that night, and Chris comes in and says, hey guys, how's it going? You know, this looks like a fun game here tonight. And I'm like, what is going on? You know, why are you so quiet? Well, my son is very trying. You know, I mean, so that kind of, those kind of opportunities would not have happened without the tools.
Right. Gil, do you got any thoughts?
Well, in comparison to analog, I think it's okay, right? I still think playing board game is as much to me as interacting with people as playing board game. I love board games. That's one of the reasons I'm not big on solo games, because, you know, to me is the whole be part of the of that interaction, making fun of each other, you know, roll dice. But at the same time, I for the same reasons you guys talked about it, I think it's a great tool. I mean, I only play D&D. It's only possible for me to play D&D right now because of Roll20.
Right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, and we play, one of the guys is in Granada, you know. So it's just I think it's a wonderful tool. It doesn't replace for me. I think I would be sad to only play online. I don't mind it. I agree. But at the same time, I think it's important too, and I think it's just gonna get better. I'm sorry. That's the fact about the whole online technology on games, is that it's not gonna get worse. It's gonna get better from now on. And, you know, with the advent of Oculus Rift, and I think LG is launching their own now, and there's a couple other companies launching virtual, you know, headwears and then handwears, so you can actually sit on a table and interact-ish. I think we'll see 10 years from now, we're gonna see each other's, not holographic, but with avatars that are pretty realistic, that we're gonna be sitting with each other's on tables virtually. And I'm saying 10 years, and I think this might happen sooner than that yet, with the whole, you know, with the VR. Whole headset and the VR and everything. But I still love to be, you know, at a table with my friends and sharing all senses, you know, having all the senses. Right. Which is a weird thing to say, but it's part of the human exchange, right? You have that.
Gil's eating his game pieces like he's sitting there.
I mean, all senses that you share.
Right.
And making fun, and sometimes you're making fun from somebody from something that you're seeing that is not even related to the game. You know, there are things that are kind of hard to replace. So I think both things are great. I'm an analog gamer. That's my heart set on, and it's what I love to do. I don't hate the whole online virtual thing. I think it's a great tool, and I think I'm gonna make great use of it.
Right.
So I think it's a valid thing, and it's gonna get better and better. I think that technology is actually the future. So you see so many sci-fi videos where you have people playing on those virtual board, on their ships and stuff like that. I think there was a scene from Firefly, Star Wars. I think there was something. There's several Guardians of the Galaxy. I think there's a scene they're playing something. So and I think those are things that are going to happen. We're not going to be flying on a spaceship, but and I'm not saying we're not going to be flying a spaceship, but we're probably
I'm not flying in a spaceship.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
But those kind of things are going to be.
I've seen the
part of our life.
I'm not going into the belt.
Right. I have no desire.
We're living in a great time. I mean, people complain, but man, this is an awesome time to be living in. The technology, the reach we have, the life is easy. We've known the three of us are living in a country that are fairly safe. We're not living in some places in the world that's so hard to leave. So we have to be grateful and playing games and having all that fun. So I'm pro any form of board gaming.
Okay. Well, any last minute comments from the Peanut Gallery? I'm calling us Peanut Gallery. Twitch chat again. Feel free. Hello, Griff. You're just joining us. I appreciate seeing your face. I'm not seeing your face, seeing your name pop up in chat. Any last things about game nights and what's important for your setup and having a good time?
Have as many of them as possible. Play as many games as you can.
Right.
Don't try to host all of them. Go to someone else's house. Go to someone else's house and see how they do it.
Right.
And then be all judgy. Oh, you don't have.
You don't have a meat tray for me.
Yeah, you don't have dip that looks like a Settlers of Catan board. You're not even trying.
When we go to Andrew's house, we get like a course meal. We go over to Matt's and we get Little Caesars pizzas.
Don't be a board game snobby, right?
Yeah. Don't be a snob of any kind.
We know Matt's a snob. Yeah. We know Matt's a snob. I would definitely say for me, I would say that my definition, I think Matt brought up a good point. My definition of a game night has changed. I'm going to tease this, right? I don't know if Matt's going to give me the death look or not. We've talked about with Geek Spiel, do we have something where we put on a game night, right? Like we do that online and in a different format. And I think we can. I think we can do something fun that's, a bunch of people, hey, you looking to play a board game tonight? It's 2 weeks down the road. This is what we're going to do. Feel free to join us. I think it really has changed the definition of what is a game night. I do agree that for a while there, I was kind of like, I'm missing board games in my life. My in-person group, we haven't played. But over the past, 4 or 5 months, I've played more board games than I ever have. And it's because of this online format. So I would agree. And Gil has talked about, again, the only way he can tabletop RPG is in that format. And so use the tools you have, right? It's like, yes, it's going to be lacking, but if you don't get to play games, but once in a blue moon, right? Like use the tools at your disposal to play, right? Like there's, now anymore, there are games coming out for Android and iOS that like letting you play. I mean, if you want to play Settlers, but you don't want to play with other people because it never gets on the game table for you, there's an app that's like a Settlers game with cities and knights and seafarers and all these other expansions. Go pick it up. Pandemic is on, on tablets now and stuff like that. And so, you can play against AI. You can play these multiplayer online pieces. And so just go have fun with it. Don't let you can't physically be at a place be a barrier for you not to get to play your games. So I think that's my sudden revelation that I just had.
And
Gil,
I'm not going to give you the death look because I think it's an idea that we come up with and it's a good one. We do, we play games all week. We're going to play this on Wednesday, this on Tuesday, this on Thursday. But I think we're going to try and just say, you know what, next Saturday at 5:00, get online and then we'll figure out what we're going to play. And if there's 10 people, then we'll have 3 tables going and you'll get to play what you want to play. And just have a game night. Bring your own beer and your own chips and take your headset off when you need to for a while. Take a break when you need to if your kid is crying. But, carve some time out for games.
Mm-hmm. Gil, any last minute thoughts?
I think I'm going to repeat what I said before. The worst game night is better than the best day of work.
Yeah, I've had some bad game nights. I love that.
Really bad.
Yeah.
No, just play games. Play what you like. Try not to be influenced in a good way. Try not to be influenced of what other people think it should be a good game. If you play the game and you'll like it, even if it's Machikoro, go ahead, play the game.
I was literally going to say, can we get off air and go play Machikoro now, Gil?
Yeah, play anything you like it. Don't play games for other people. Play games for yourself.
All right. Well, I don't think we can end on much better words. So, Matt, do you want to tell us what do we have coming up this week on Table Crashers?
Table Crashers is actually going to be Wednesday night. I'm not exactly sure what game we're going to play, but we have a guest. This appearance is Tristan Donovan, and he has written a book on games here just in the last year. I heard him on NPR last week. He did a segment on one of the NPR programs that I listened to, and I found him on Twitter, and he's in England, and he's going to stay up in the middle of the night and be part of Table Crashers Wednesday night. So if you want to get a preview on it, go buy the book. I don't have the title in front of me. It's a history of gaming, how we went from Monopoly to Settlers of Catan kind of thing. And it looks pretty good, and Tristan's going to be on the show Wednesday night. All
right. Well, on behalf of Matt, Gil, myself, Chris back at the other Chris, back at the mothership, and all of Geek Spiel, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Again, feel free to jump on Discord, come say hi to us, follow us on Twitch so you know when we're broadcasting live, because we do some of our pickup games, and if we've got a person to throw it on there, we'll throw it on there. But have a good night, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
Cheers.